Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham 2022. Hopefully you had a very happy Thanksgiving yesterday, and you're maybe out and you've taken advantage of some sweet deals on Black Friday. Anyway, today we're going to finish up the play-in groups for the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament for Christmas in Arkham. Yesterday we played through the first two groups, and Yog-Sothoth and Atlach Naka managed to advance into the winners group. So once again, our goal in this game is to summon the Ancient One, rather than trying to banish him like we'll be doing for the rest of Christmas in Arkham. But we can lose if we get 10 Elder Signs or 5 Curses. And by tiebreakers, based on the tiebreakers, we'd rather lose by Curses than by Elder Signs. In fact, in all of the Ancient Ones who've gone so far in this tournament, only one did not manage to get summoned, that one being Nyarlathotep. So the investigators must have had my back in not wanting a rematch with the Crawling Chaos. But anyway, just as a 10,000-foot view of how the tournament works, like I said, we're playing through the last of the groups today. The winner will advance to the winners group based on summons and then tiebreakers potentially. And then the winner of that group, the winners group on Sunday, will be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham. But that's enough rambling about the technical details of the tournament. Let's take a quick view at the board, and I'll provide a quick refresher on how the game works. In the solo game, we'll be using both both fate pieces. Ours will be the dark one and starts at the other worlds. The investigators will be controlling the light one and starting at the streets of Arkham. But anyway, each location has a special ability active with it. So we'll be using our cards to move around the board. In fact, we'll take a quick look at the starting symbols. In Yig's hand, we have a green, a yellow, and a white active. So, starting from the ceremony, which is we can use a white to move to, there's also a yellow there for purposes of preparing spells. I'll explain more about that at the end of the first turn. But at the ceremony, when you go there, you can trigger your Ancient One's Dark Gift and get a gate card, which you can use to move to any location. The Streets of Arkham functions a little bit differently in the solo game, where if you move to the Streets of Arkham, normally you'd give out investigators and immediately raid the opposing lodges, but here, when you move to the Streets of Arkham in the solo game, you actually can take investigators off of your lodge, and then if you have control of it, you can sacrifice an extra cultist to remove one more investigator. But I'll talk more about control actions when they actually are relevant. Over at the Gathering with a green symbol, we can use those to gain extra cultists back from the Abyss and move them around to the location. At the library, when you go there with a red symbol, you can draw 3 spell cards and ready an additional spell using the same pool of cards in the astral column of each location. At the Otherworlds location, which we need either a gate card to move to or any 2 matching symbols, there's a white there as well, but it's hidden by my fate piece. You can use that to sacrifice your cultists and potentially move on your summoning track. Then over at the museum, you need a blue symbol to move there, or again, 2 matching, to pick up an artifact on the basic location. So let's go ahead and take a look at the artifacts Yig will have to start with. So first up, we have the Necronomicon. When you gain this artifact, become cursed. On an exhaust, you can add a gate at a wild for readying a spell, you can discard it to move the fate piece to another location. Probably move either one. Then the second one up. Wizard's Grimoire. Your minimum hand size is 5, so we may try to go snap up one of those artifacts as fast as we can. But anyway, let's move down and we'll meet Yig, who is our first Ancient One in this last group. Here's our first Ancient One for this group, Yig. So his Dark Gift is Carpent of Serpents. Choose any one location, roll 5 dice. For each tentacle or Cthulhu, return 1 cultist to its lodge. For each Elder Sign or for each lesser or greater Elder Sign, move 1 investigator to another location. So if there's a location in particular where we're like, okay, I don't really care about this location, then we'll just start dumping cultists on there. But the returning a cultist to its lodge is actually potentially a risky play, but as we saw in the last couple of groups, we do get penalized if we have no cultists in the lodge, so we can potentially use that as a way to get cultists back from a location that we don't care about. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at Yig's starting hand. So on a green symbol, Yig has Transmogrify on taking white and yellow. Change any one-rolled die to any face. If the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. On a yellow, Rack taking 2 white, destroy 1 cultist from any location or 1 investigator from any location or lodge, and Witch's Curse, using a red and a blue, using a white for movement. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Curses aren't that particularly useful in the game, but I don't want to activate the Dark Gift yet. So anyway, with that, let's move back over to the board, and we will start this game. Given that the streets of Arkham are occupied right now, and I don't really want to activate my Dark Gift yet, plus the fact that I don't mind losing Transmogrify, which is a curse, which is a potential way to get cursed, I'll discard Transmogrify to move to the Gathering, placing a cultist and an investigator at the Gathering. Then I'll gain 3 cultists back from the Abyss and move 1 up to the other worlds. And then we'll roll for temporary control. On this, we need a Cthulhu to get temporary control, which we do get. So we do get to move the other cultist over to the other worlds as well. And then we're not preparing anything for 2 green, so I'll just draw another card. Drawing from a white, I will find Gate, taking a green and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card, regardless of whether or not you have one already. During the move phase, I have to use this gate for movement. Minimum hand size right now is 3, so that will do it there. Then the investigators at the Streets of Arkham will discard a yellow card, but they're already at the Streets of Arkham, so they just move up to the other worlds and place an investigator there. Then for my turn, as much as I wouldn't mind using Find Gate, I'll actually discard 2 whites to move up to the museum, placing a cultist and an investigator, and I will snap up the Wizard's Grimoire and nothing flat. Then we need a replacement artifact for it. We will find Forgotten Tome. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library, draw 2 cards. And then we are not preparing anything for 2 blue, so we'll just draw 4 cards from the spell deck, because remember, minimum hand size in this game is 5 cards. So on a green, Yig will find Power Surge, which needs a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. Then on a white, Shadow Walk, taking 2 yellow and a blue. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. Then on a red, we'll find another Find Gate. This one takes a blue and a yellow. And on a yellow, Call the Wicked Ones, taking a red and 2 blue. Summon a monster and become cursed. Okay, and then from the other worlds, the investigators will discard a blue trying to move to the museum, except they can't because we're there, which will give us our first curse. And then since they're already at the other worlds, they'll move to the Streets of Arkham. And we'll put an investigator there. Then for my turn, I will actually use... Now I kind of wouldn't mind maybe... Actually, I wouldn't mind pulling a cultist back from the streets of Arkham, so I'll use... Actually, in that case, I'll just use 1 yellow. Actually, no, I need 2 yellow to move to the ceremony, which will give me a gate card and trigger Yig's Dark Gift. So we'll choose a location, roll 5 dice for each tentacle or Cthulhu, return one cultist to its lodge after I put down the cultist and the investigator. Return 1 cultist to its lodge. For each tentacle or for each elder sign, move 1 investigator to another location. So I will actually choose... Actually, I'm going to choose... let's choose the museum, actually. So we'll roll 5 dice. So we roll 3 cultists, 3 tentacles, and Cthulhus, and 2 elder signs. So I get the 2 investigators back in the lodge, and then I'll move these 2 investigators to the museum. And then, actually, I don't know why I brought the dice tower out of shot, because I'm going to need it back in shot, so I can roll for temporary control, and try to move along the summon track, which is what the control action of the ceremony is. I do not get temporary control, but that was close. Anyway, with a yellow and a white, nothing there I can prepare. So I will just draw 2 cards. On a blue symbol, Yig will find. Enthrall, taking 2 white. Choose 1 location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location, or 2 of their cultists from that location. Then on a red, mind switch with a blue and for a blue and a green. Swap 1 of your cultists from any 1 location with any other cultist at a different location. But we'll just use the investigators to swap that. So anyway, the investigators will discard a red from the streets of Arkham to move up to the library and place another investigator there. For my turn, from the ceremony, I will discard a... Let me look at my hand first before I use this gate. A second curse would be a risky thing to take right now. But the Necronomicon is actually a pretty useful artifact. So yeah, I think I will go ahead and grab... Yeah, I'll go ahead and grab it. So I'll move up to the museum, placing a cultist and an investigator there, which will grab me the Necronomicon. I do become cursed with a second curse. So that gives me that. But exhausting that for a wild card to ready a spell can be very handy. And then the replacement artifact there is a mistranslated manuscript. Discard this to cancel a raid. Choose another cult and initiate a raid on their lodge. Then roll 1 die. On a cultist or elder sign, or on a lesser or greater elder sign, become cursed. I'll have to think about how I want to take that for a single player game. Maybe that's just initiate the raid on the investigators. And then for every tentacle or Cthulhu, advance 1 on the summoning track. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But I'm not particularly... I wouldn't be interested in that anyway for the curse effect. But for 2 yellow and 2 blue, is there anything there? Actually, yes, there is. I will go ahead and prepare... I'll go ahead and prepare Find Gate, which will discard all of that, and then draw me 2 cards. Because my minimum hand size is 5, remember. On a red, Yig will find an Ancient Stirring that takes 3 red. Ooh. That might be tempting move to the streets of Arkham to prepare, actually. Advance 1 on the summon track. You may sacrifice one of your cultists at the current altar location to advance another one on the track. And then on a blue, rack which takes 2 yellow. Destroy one cultist from any one location or lodge. And that is at start of turn. Okay, so the investigators will now try to move to the museum from the library, except they can't because we're there already. So they move to the other worlds instead, and Yig picks up his 3rd curse, which is a bit of a problem, but anyway. At the start of my turn, I will go ahead and cast Find Gate. So I'll draw a gate card, but I have to use this one for movement this turn, which I will put there, and I'll move to the streets of Arkham, risking a raid. So actually, the investigators come to my lodge first. Fortunately, I don't get raided until I have 5 investigators on my location. Place those, and actually, I will get to get rid of 2 of them right away. And if I get temporary control, which we'll find out now, I can sacrifice a cultist to get rid of 1 more. Nope. Still, getting rid of 2 of those cultists right away is very welcome. Plus, I actually will get to go ahead and exhaust the Necronomicon. It helps if I exhaust the right spell for a wild, and I will prepare Ancient Stirring, which I will immediately cast. So I get to advance 1 on the summon track, and I may sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to advance 1 more. So boop, and 1, 2. Oop, 1, 2. Help if I can count. But anyway, we'll draw another card from the spell deck. So another yellow Yig will find. Cubes of Power, taking a red and a white. When you are rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to the roll. Alright, and then the investigators will discard a red card to move back to the library and place an investigator there. What do we want to do here? I will discard a... That could be a problem trying to go up to the other worlds now. So actually I want to try to clear out the other worlds first. So I'm going to discard a white to move over to the ceremony. Okay, I can't draw the gate card because I already have one, but I will get to trigger Yig's Dark Gift. And I will choose the... As much as I want to try to clear the other worlds out, I don't want to risk having my cultists return to the lodge from there. So I'm actually going to choose the library. We'll bring the dice tower back in shot once I stop knocking over cultists. Okay, so I actually don't mind the getting rid of pulling a cultist back, and then we'll move the investigators over to the streets of Arkham. Alright, and then for the Necronomicon should have been exhausted, should have been unexhausted, so I will actually exhaust it to add a purple for purposes of preparing a spell to give me Power Surge. So until the end of my turn, I control my location. So that's prepared. The rest of this gets discarded, and then Yig draws 2 cards. So Yig will draw. On a blue, he will find a Mind Switch, taking a green and a white, and an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 white, which we saw earlier when we went to use that. And artifacts prepare, I believe, at the end of the turn. Draw 2. When do artifacts prepare? Oh, okay, it is the start of the turn. Okay, so I do need to pay a little more attention to that. But anyway, coming back to the investigator's turn, we will see that they are trying to move to the ceremony as well from the library, but they can't because we're there. So they move to the other worlds, place another investigator, and that's actually Yig's 4th curse. One more, and he will most definitely be eliminated from Christmas in Arkham. But anyway, we'll go ahead and unexhaust the Necronomicon. I kind of wanted to move to the other worlds this turn, but anyway. I will use 2 blue to move over to the Gathering. So I'm not going to get raided yet. Place a cultist and an investigator there. Then I'll move 1 over to the other worlds, and I'm not going to bother rolling for temporary control. But I will exhaust the Necronomicon to add one more wild to prepare the aforementioned Ancient Stirring. So I'll advance 1, and then I will immediately cast that. So I'll advance 1 on the summon track. Unfortunately, I don't have a cultist there anymore to sacrifice to advance 1 more. But anyway, Yig will then draw 3 cards. 1, 2, and 3. We'll have 2 red. Yig will find Broken Seal for 3 red. Destroy 1 Elder Sign. You may sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. Then on another red, Alhazred's Vengeance. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. And on a green, Witch's Curse. Taking a red and a white. Choose a cult. That cult becomes cursed. Then the investigators are trying to move to the library, or not the library, the museum, which they actually can get to for once. So they'll move there and place another investigator. Now, I do have to make kind of a dangerous play here. So I will exhaust the Necronomicon. And then I will use the gate card to move up to the other world's location, which will be triggering a raid at the end of my turn, because I get 4 investigators there. And then I add 1 and a cultist there. And then I will cast Power Surge. So until the end of my turn, I control my current location. We get 5 dice in shot, and any Cthulhus bring cultists back from the abyss. Right? Yes, for each Cthulhu. Yep, for each Cthulhu I roll, I'll return 1 cultist to my lodge. So I should only have 5 dice in there. I'm preparing for the raid that's coming at the end of the turn. But anyway. So we get to sacrifice 2 cultists and advance 2 on the summoning track. Unfortunately, Control didn't really do much of anything for us on this one. But anyway. Looking here. We have wild, 2 blue, green, and white. So this feels like a waste, but I am going to use the wild there and the white to prepare cubes of power. When you're rolling dice, you may roll 2 additional dice. So all of those get discarded. And then Yig will draw 1 card, surprisingly. So Yig will draw Command, taking a purple and a green. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. And now we need the 6 dice for Yig to get raided. So this is actually a very perilous spot for Yig to be in right now, because he's got 4 curses right now, and the investigators are raiding with 6 dice. If Yig ends up with at least 5 Elder Signs, then Yig will take his 5th curse, and he will all but be eliminated from Christmas and Arkham. So let's find out. Yig really dodged a bullet on that one, so he ends up with 2 Elder Signs One investigator's still at the lodge, but the other 5 are gone. So Yig really dodged a bullet, but he is still in a world of trouble. Because he needs to get rid of that last investigator somehow. But anyway, it's unfortunate that that investigator is still there, because it is the investigator's turn, and they will be discarding a yellow card to move to the streets of Arkham, and they'll initiate a raid immediately on Yig. So 1 die there. They do get an investigator there. That last investigator puts out another Elder Sign, and then is basically defeated. So yeah, that is a very big problem for us. But because now that I'm looking at it, Yig actually needs to get rid of at least one of these Elder Signs right now. The question is there anywhere that's got 3 red that he can prepare this broken seal with? There right now is not. So I think what he will do is he's actually going to discard a Mind Switch to move over to the library, placing a cultist and an investigator. Then Yig will get to draw 3 spells. He can ready an additional spell with the same pool. On a green, Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 yellow and a white. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the Abyss and place that on their lodge. You return 3 and do the same. And these next 2 are white symbols. Coerce the Innocent, taking a green, blue, and a yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from any 1 location or lodge to any lodge. And Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a yellow. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. That could potentially be a huge problem, but we will try to roll for temporary control, and here we desperately need it. Which we do not get it. That's unfortunate. But anyway, looking at our hand, we've got red, white, and 2 blue there. Red, white, and 2 blue isn't going to let us prepare anything. So Yig will draw a new spell. So he will draw Witch's Curse on a blue, taking a yellow and a green. Anyway, the investigators are then discarding a yellow or a white from the streets of Arkham to move over to the ceremony and place another investigator out. For my turn, what do I want to do here? Do I just... 1, 2, 3, 4. The problem here is if I go for the summon, I could give myself 2 additional dice, but if I go for even if I go for the summon, I think Yig is probably just going to be eliminated, maybe advancing as far as he can on the summon track, because remember, that is going to factor in on the tiebreakers, so I think he will gamble on that. He'll discard 2 red to move to the other worlds, which will place another cultist and an investigator there. So yes, Yig is going to very much have to gamble on getting this to work, and he will cast Cubes of Power to add 2 additional dice. So Yig's got to go for it here. Yig is going to end up actually sacrificing all 4 of the cultists, so he does get the hit there. 6, 7, but he takes his 5th curse. The camera cut out suddenly, so pardon the jump cut that you probably just saw on the video. But anyway, just to recap where our situation was, Yig had just finished his roll and managed to sacrifice all 4 of his cultists, which would have gotten him to the top of his summon track, except he hit where his elder signs were at first and took his 5th curse. So he didn't end up getting summoned. He got to 7 on his summoning track and only had 3 elder signs, surprisingly, but the aforementioned 5 curses. So that's where the bar's been set. Yig becomes just the 2nd ancient one in this tournament to not end up getting summoned. But anyway, that will do it for Yig, so now I need to reset the board for Cthulhu. We're all set here for Cthulhu's playthrough, so let's start off by looking at the artifacts at the museum for him to choose from. So starting with the Ceremonial Dagger. Discard this to return to the supply up to 5 cultists from your, or 5 investigators from your lodge, then become cursed. And Chamber's Journal. Exhaust to choose any one location, then roll a die. On a cultist, or a tentacle, or a Cthulhu, add 1 investigator from your lodge to that location. On a greater elder sign, add 1 investigator from that location to your lodge, which could be dangerous because that could potentially trigger an end-of-turn raid. But anyway, that's musing for later. Let's go see what Cthulhu is getting up to. Let's go meet Cthulhu. The namesake of the Cthulhu mythos has arrived to rear his ugly head. So Cthulhu's dark gift, the stars are right. Move 1 of your cultists from the ceremony to any one location, then destroy all investigators or 1 cultist of each other cult at that location. So it would be destroy all investigators at that location. And then Cthulhu's starting hand, on a yellow he has Dark Pact, taking a blue and a white. Become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. On a red, Command, taking a purple and a green. Moving a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. And on a green, Find Gate, taking a red and a white. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card, regardless of whether you have a gate card already. During the move phase of your turn, you have to use that gate card to move. Anyway, that will do it for introductions for Cthulhu. Now let's move over to the board. This one's a pretty easy decision to start off with Cthulhu, so we'll discard the command to move over to the library. I can draw 3 cards and ready an additional spell, placing a cultist and an investigator there. So we'll draw 3 cards from the spell deck. On a yellow we find Gate to the Past, taking 2 green and a red. At the end of any other cult's turn, you may sacrifice 2 cultists from your current lodge to take the current location's basic action. So wherever the investigator's fate piece ends up, we can take that action. These next 2 are both on white symbols, so we find Coerce the Innocent, taking green, blue, yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodge. And Find Artifact, taking a green and a yellow. Draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. Is there anything that I need? Is there anything I would need control of the location to prepare? Potentially, I could use Gate to the Past, but anyway. So we will go ahead and roll for temporary control of the location. Which we don't manage to get, but that's fine. Gate to the Past wasn't necessarily something I needed there, but I wouldn't have said no to it. Anyway, I'll use the white symbol there and the red to prepare the aforementioned Find Gate, so I can use that, so I can have a gate card to use for movement whenever I want it. But anyway, like I said, there was nothing else there, so we'll draw a fresh spell. Cthulhu will draw Hall of the Wicked Ones, taking a yellow and 2 red, moving with white. Summon a monster and become cursed. Then the investigators are taking my next stop because I wanted to go to the Gathering, but they'll discard a green card to move to the Gathering and place an investigator there. Then Cthulhu will... I will actually discard another white at the library to move down to the ceremony, which will give... So there's a cultist and an investigator. Then I will trigger Cthulhu's Dark Gift, and so I can move one of my cultists from the ceremony to any location. Then I destroy all cultists or all investigators or one of their cults, so it would be all investigators. I will move to the... I'll move to the Gathering, actually, and destroy all investigators there. And then temporary control doesn't matter for me because I don't have 2 cultists there anymore to sacrifice to advance one on Cthulhu's summoning track. And I'm not preparing anything with a red and a white, so Cthulhu will draw on a blue. Cubes of Power, taking a blue and a white. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. Then from the Gathering, the investigators will discard a yellow to move over to the streets of Arkham, which will put another investigator down there. That would initiate a raid immediately, but I don't have any investigators on Cthulhu's Lodge right now, so no problem there. I will then discard... actually, I'm going to cast Find Gate. So I'll draw a gate card, which I have to use for movement, which I'm fine with that. I'll put that here, and I'll move over to the Gathering, which will put a cultist out and give me an investigator on the location. Then I will move 1 to the other worlds, and I'll roll for temporary control, because here I wouldn't mind it. I don't get it, which is unfortunate, but alas, no help for that. With a green and 2 yellow, I will use 1 of the yellow to prepare and immediately cast Find Artifact to draw an artifact from the artifact deck. So these are gone. And then drawing an artifact, Cthulhu finds. Jade Statue. Discard this. If you're at the other world, reroll up to 2 of your dice. Okay, and Cthulhu will then draw a spell. He will draw on a blue. Rack, taking 2 yellow. Destroy 1 cultist, destroy 1 investigator from any location or lodge. The investigators from the streets of Arkham will discard a white to move over to the ceremony and put another investigator out. Cthulhu will then discard a... Actually, discard a blue card. Will discard a rack to move over to the museum, which will put another cultist out and an investigator. Then I'm not interested in either of these artifacts, so I'll take a chance on one from the top of the deck, so Cthulhu will find the Necronomicon, which we saw was kind of Yig's Doom earlier. When you gain this artifact, become cursed. Exhaust to add a wild for readying a spell, and discard to move the fate piece to another location. So Cthulhu now has his first curse. I don't want particularly... Well, actually, I wouldn't mind temporary control here. Mostly to discard and replace the artifact deck, because I don't have any Elder Signs right now to worry about, so... I don't get temporary control, so I don't get to replace the artifact deck. For 2 blue, and I've got to remember I've got a wild card as well, which I will use. I'll use the Necronomicon, so I'll prepare... So I'll use the wild card as a white to prepare cubes of power, so I get to add 2 additional dice to my roll. That goes away, and we'll draw a spell card for Cthulhu, so Cthulhu will find, on a white, Shadow Walk, taking 2 yellow and a blue. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. Then the investigators from the ceremony will discard a red to move up to the library and place another investigator there. Looking at Cthulhu, I will discard a white to move down to the ceremony, which will give me all 3 of these investigators, placing another cultist and an investigator. I'll draw a gate card, and then his dark gift is move 1 of your cultists from the ceremony to any location. We'll move to the gathering again and destroy the investigator there. And then with a white, 2 red, and a wild, the Necronomicon should have been prepared. Yeah, I'll exhaust the Necronomicon to get a wild, which I'll use both my wilds as a green and a red to prepare a gate to the past. So at the end of any other cult's turn, I can sacrifice 2 cultists from my lodge to take the current location's basic action. So those are all discarded. And then Cthulhu will draw a fresh spell. He will draw an Ancient Stirring, taking 3 red. Advance 1 on the summon track. You may sacrifice 1 of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on the summon track. Okay, and then the investigators from the library will discard a white to try to move to the ceremony, except we're there, so they go to the other worlds instead, and Cthulhu takes his second curse. Yeah, so let me look at this. Okay, 2 additional dice and 2 cultists from your lodge to take the current location's basic action. Right, so I don't think we'll do that just yet. I will unexhaust the Necronomicon now that I remember, and I'll use the gate card to move over to the ceremony, or over to the gathering, I should say, which will put another cultist there and an investigator. Then I'll move 1 to the other worlds, and I have outright control of the location, so I don't have to worry about that, which means I can move any number of cultists from the gathering to any other location. So I'll move 3 more. I'll move 3 up. I'll move the other 3 up to the other worlds. And then for a green, a blue, and a wild. No, I'm not going to worry about that right now. So Cthulhu will draw a power surge, taking a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. And then the investigators will discard a blue at the other worlds to move over to the museum and place another investigator there. Cthulhu will... just checking what spells I have prepared. Nothing I'm interested in there. Cthulhu will actually use 2 white at the gathering to move up to the other worlds, which will place his 7th cultist there and a 3rd investigator, which doesn't move them to the lodge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I will pull 3 of these out, dump the rest in. So you can see we've got 7 dice in there for the 7 cultists Cthulhu has. Do I want to add 2 more dice? I might be tempted, but No, I'm not going to add those dice just yet. So anyway, 7 dice because of 7 cultists at the other worlds. Let's get those through the... Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 cultists that we get to sacrifice to advance 4 on Cthulhu's summon track. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll roll for temporary control. So we'll bring one of these back in. And I've got to remember that I've got 2 Cthulhus if this turns out to matter. Because that would get me 2 of my cultists back. Never mind. So that part's not relevant. Let's see here. Then, is there anything I want to prepare? There is something I want to prepare, actually. There's a wild. I'll exhaust the Necronomicon to add a wild and another red, since there's one at the location, to prepare and immediately cast an Ancient Stirring. Advance 1 on the summon track, and I may sacrifice one of my cultists at the current altar location to advance once more on the summon track, which I will do that to immediately advance 2 on the summoning track. And these are all gone. And Cthulhu will draw 2 cards because he's got 2 in hand. So on a yellow Cthulhu will draw Necessary Evil. Take a purple and a blue. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. And on a blue, Alter Fate, taking a yellow and a green. Either reroll up to 3 of your dice once or 1 of your dice up to 3 times. And okay, so the investigators will try to discard a blue to move to the museum, except they're already there. So I think they would try to move to the other world, which will give Cthulhu his 3rd curse, which will then instead move it to the streets of Arkham, which will place an investigator there and then initiate a raid. We have 3 investigators on the lodge. That's a problem. There should be nothing at the gathering right now. Okay, so we get rid of all 3 investigators, but we end up with 2 Elder Signs on the way out. Which is rather unfortunate, but no help for it at this point. Anyway, I'm just looking at the spells I've got prepared. So start a turn, the Necronomicon prepares. I'll try to pay a little better attention to that. And we are actually at an Elder Sign penalty as well for Cthulhu. So I'll have to discard 2 yellow to move over to the ceremony, which will draw a gate card. I get 2 cultists back, 1 to the location, 1 to the lodge, but I take another Elder Sign and penalty. Then I'll move a cultist to, I think, the other worlds and destroy all of the investigators there. And I don't care about temporary control. For a white and a wild card. Actually, I will exhaust the Necronomicon to give me another wild and prepare Alter Fate. So I can either reroll up to 3 of my dice once or 1 of my dice up to 3 times. So that's prepared. That gate's discarded. And then Cthulhu draws 3 cards. So on a red, Cthulhu finds Broken Seal for 3 red. You may destroy any 1 Elder Sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current location to destroy 1 more. On a yellow, Power Surge. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. And on a green, Call of the Wicked Ones. Summon a monster and become cursed. The investigators are then discarding a yellow at the streets of Arkham to try to move there, except they're already there at the streets of Arkham, so they'll move up to the other worlds and place an investigator there. Cthulhu's turn. Let me look again at what I've got prepared. Actually, at the end of the cult's turn, I'm going to cast Gate to the Past. So at the end of the turn, actually I don't have the 2 cultists in the lodge, so never mind, I can't pay that. Anyway, those unexhaust, and I will move to I will use a green to move over to the Gathering. So I'll place 1 and a cultist, gain 3 back, and move 1 up to the other worlds. With a green, 2 blue, or green, a blue, 2 white, and a wild card, there's nothing here I can prepare. Actually, there is nothing here I can prepare, so... Right. So anyway, Cthulhu will draw a spell card. He will draw on a white symbol. Find Gate, using a green and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card. Regardless, yada yada yada. We've seen this earlier when we've used it. The investigators are discarding a red card at the other worlds to move over to the library and placing another cultist there. Alright, I think now we're at a point where Cthulhu's got to go for it. So he's going to use his gate card to move up to the other worlds, placing a cultist and another investigator there. So he'll get 5 dice, except I'm also going to use cubes of power to, when I'm rolling dice, I may add 2 additional dice to this roll. So I get 7 dice total. And I need to be able to sacrifice at least 3 of these cultists. And I've got an altar fate to fall back on if I need it as well. So I got 7 dice here. Which I don't need, actually. So I get to sacrifice 3 of Cthulhu's cultists, which will advance me 3 on the summoning track. So 1, this is where Yig got stopped, but Cthulhu only has his 4th curse. So 2, 3, which means Cthulhu, come on. So based on that, Cthulhu has managed to get summoned. 3 Elder Signs and 4 curses. But that was actually a pretty tough go of it for Cthulhu. He did manage to get there in the end, but anyway, that will do it for Cthulhu's playthrough. Now I need to reset the board for Shub-Niggurath. One thing that's going to be new for our playthrough with Shub-Niggurath is we've also got the monster reserve over here. So we always start with 2 face-down monsters. But let's go ahead and look at the artifacts first. So starting playthrough here, Lamp of Alhazred. Roll 3 dice. For each Cthulhu, or for each Elder Sign of any kind, gain 1 Elder Sign, then immediately take another turn. And Mistranslated Manuscript. Discard to cancel a raid, choose another cult and initiate a raid on their lodge, then roll a die. On an Elder Sign result, become cursed. So anyway, well, similar to the artifact deck, we'll have 2 monsters that we can choose from. Or we can potentially, when we go to summon a monster, we'll have 2 we can choose from, or we can take our chances with the reserve. But anyway, first monster up in the reserve is a deep one. And we've got 3 symbols for tokens up here. I'm sure the card will explain how it's used. Upon summoning, place 1 deep one on 3 different locations. On your turn, you may remove 1 token to choose a location occupied by a deep one, and destroy 1 cultist or investigator at that location. The deep one counts as 1 cultist for purposes of control, but can't be sacrificed. On a special, locations occupied by deep ones may not be targeted by Dagon's Dark Gift. But again, we're playing solo here. And we have Goat Spawn with 3 tokens. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Goat Spawn on a location, then roll 3 dice. For each lesser Elder Sign, move 1 investigator to any other location. For each greater elder sign, move one investigator to any lodge. Then choose a cult with at least one investigator at this location. That cult becomes cursed. So on the greater elder sign, we'll just move the investigators back to the supply. I think that's probably the best way we'll handle that. But anyway, that will do it for the monster reserve. Now let's go meet our last ancient one in this Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. The official rules for this game actually recommend not playing with Shub-Niggurath in a solo game. We're going to give her a try anyway, though, and see how she does. Anyway, her dark gift is 1,000 Young. Discard any monster you control and its corresponding tokens. Draw 3 monster cards from the face-down reserve. Summon 1 and place the other cards on the bottom of the monster reserve. This does not result in a curse. Now, the investigators can only control one investigator or one monster at a time. So if we gain another one, we'll immediately discard the old monster and all of its tokens. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at Shub-Niggurath's opening hand. On a yellow first, she finds... Find artifact taking a blue and a red. Draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. Then both of these are going to be on blue. Call the Wicked Ones, taking a green and 2 white. Summon a monster and become cursed. And Shadow Walk, taking 2 red and a white. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. So just to set the scene that Shub-Niggurath faces here, Yig did not manage to get summoned, so he's basically out. Cthulhu did get summoned, but he took 4 curses on his way along with 3 elder signs. So as long as Shub-Niggurath gets summoned in either less than 2 elder signs or 3 elder signs and less than 4 curses, it'll be Shub-Niggurath advancing to the winners group. But anyway, let's move back over to the board and get into this playthrough. Herpaderpa would remember to actually take it would help to actually remember to take the investigators off the location. But anyway, we will discard Call the Wicked Ones to move over to the museum, placing a cultist and an investigator there. Now, I'm not terribly interested in either artifact there, so I'll take one from the top of the deck. So Shub-Niggurath will find Chamber's Journal. Exhaust to choose any location, then roll a die. On a cultist or tentacle, add 1 investigator from your lodge to that location. Or on a greater elder sign, add 1 investigator from that location to your lodge. Then we'll roll for temporary control, mostly so because I'm interested in trying to cycle that reserve out. Which I will get to do, actually. So I'll go ahead and discard the artifacts here, and then we'll put 2 new ones out. So first up we find a Forgotten Tome. Exhaust. When another cult moves to the library, draw 2 spell cards. And Scepter of the Elders. On exhaust, sacrifice 1 cultist from any location to flip 1 of your dice to the opposite face. And then I could sacrifice cultists to destroy elder signs on my summoning track, but I don't have any right now. Then for 2 blue, I'm not preparing anything, so I will just draw from the green, and I'll just draw a green and find Alter Fate, taking a yellow and a red. Either reroll up to 3 of my dice once, or 1 of my dice up to 3 times. Then the investigators will discard a white from the streets of Arkham to move over to the ceremony and put a cultist out. Or not a cultist, an investigator out. Then I will discard an Alter Fate, as much as I would like to use it, but I don't need it now, to move over to the Gathering, placing a cultist and an investigator. Then I'll gain 3 back from the Abyss and move 1 cultist to the other worlds. I'll roll for temporary control. which I don't get. Not that I mind that right now. But anyway, with a green and a red, there's nothing there I can prepare, so I'll draw. On a blue, I'll find Rack taking 2 yellow. Destroy 1 investigator from any location or lodge. Then the investigators will discard a white, trying to move to the ceremony, except they're there already, so they'll end up in the other worlds instead, and place another investigator there. From the gathering, what do I want to do? I will discard a blue to move back over to the museum again. And I actually don't mind the Forgotten Tome here, so I will grab that. So in another cult, aka the investigators move to the library, I can exhaust that to draw 2 spell cards. And then replacing it, Silk Shroud of Atlak Naka. Exhaust to move 1 investigator being placed on your lodge to any location instead. I can discard it to return to the supply up to 2 investigators from my lodge. Do I want to try to clear that reserve? I don't think I do, actually. I think I'll just leave it as is. Then with 2 with 2 blue and a green, there's nothing here I can prepare. So I'll just draw back up. I will draw on a blue. Confound, taking a green and 2 red. Move all investigators from 1 location to an adjacent location or destroy all investigators in your lodge. Probably not that useful. The investigators will discard a green from the other worlds to move over to the gathering and place another investigator there. For my turn, do I want to move down to the gathering, or down to the ceremony? Actually, I kind of do, because I want to try these monsters out. So we'll discard 2 blue to move down to the ceremony, put a cultist out and an investigator, and then I'll draw 3 monsters from the face down reserve. So 1, 2, 3. I'll summon 1 of these monsters and put the other 2 on the bottom. So first up, I'll find a Shub-Niggurath. Place the Shub-Niggurath at the other worlds with no tokens on it, actually. So once summoned and at the beginning of each of your turns, roll 1 die for each investigator present at the Shub-Niggurath's location. For each Cthulhu, return 1 to the supply. For each greater elder sign, move 1 investigator to the next clockwise location. After all dice have been rolled, move the Shub-Niggurath to the next clockwise location. When the Shub-Niggurath returns to the other worlds, destroy all investigators on your lodge, then remove the Shub-Niggurath from play. That could be useful. Next up, the Migo, with 3 symbols, 2 of which are on artifacts. On your turn, instead of playing an astral symbol, you may discard 1 token to move the fate piece to another location and place 1 Migo there instead of a cultist. Migo are considered cultists, but count as 2 for purposes of control. They can't be sacrificed. After a token is discarded and Migo are placed in the location, if an artifact symbol is revealed, place 1 artifact from the top of the artifact deck face down at the current location's astral column. The next cult to ready a spell there takes the artifact. And Hound of Tindalos with 2 symbols, or 2 spaces. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hound of Tindalos on the summon track of any lodge. The cult's summon track cannot advance while being occupied by the Hound of Tindalos. To remove the Hound of Tindalos, the cult may either choose to become cursed or visit the ceremony and remove the Hound of Tindalos instead of activating their Ancient One's Dark Gift. The Hound of Tindalos is then returned to this card. The Hound of Tindalos is removed from play when it returns to this card and there are no more tokens on it. So I think the one I'm actually going to take is going to be the Shub-Niggurath. So I'll go ahead and get the Shub-Niggurath out. There we go. And that looks like the Shub-Niggurath to me. So we'll go ahead and place that at the other worlds. And then once summoned, we do roll 2 dice for the investigators there. On each Cthulhu, we return one of the investigators to the supply. Each greater elder sign moves it to the next clockwise location. So there are 2 investigators right now at the other worlds. Both of them stay put. Right? Yes, both of them stay put. So the Shub-Niggurath moves to the museum at the beginning of each of my turns. Okay, so looking at the ceremony right now, I've got nothing I can prepare, so I'll just draw 2 cards. And I will find, on a white, an Ancient Stirring, which takes 3 white. Advance 1 and before I do that, actually, I forgot to roll for temporary control, because I do kind of want it here. Which I do get, so I'll sacrifice 2 cultists to advance 1 on the summon track. Anyway, as I was saying, this Ancient Stirring takes 3 white. I can advance 1 on the summon track and sacrifice 1 of my cultists at the current location to advance 1 more. And on a blue, Witch's Curse. Taking a yellow and a green, choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Then the investigators from the gathering will discard a green, trying to move to the gathering except they're already there, so they'll move to the other worlds and place a cultist or an investigator there. Start of my turn, the Shub-Niggurath will roll 2 dice with the Shub-Niggurath being there. Investigators still stay put, so the Shub-Niggurath moves to the ceremony. And where am I moving to? I think I'll discard a blue here to move to the museum. And I'll take another artifact off the top, so I will find the Jade Statue. So if I'm at the other worlds, I can reroll up to 2 of my dice. Now, I am at my artifact limit of 3. And let's see, do I want temporary control? I think I do, given that I just drew an artifact rather than going for the reserve. I do not get temporary control, which is unfortunate, but can't be helped there. 4 blue and a green won't let me ready anything, so I'll draw up. So Shub-Niggurath finds on a white, Dark Pact, taking a green and a yellow, become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. Then the investigators will discard a blue from the other worlds, trying to move to the museum, except they can't because we're there. So they'll move to the streets of Arkham instead, place another investigator, and Shub-Niggurath will end up with her first curse. Anyway, start of turn, they'll move to the streets of the Shub-Niggurath moves to the streets of Arkham. Then we'll roll 2 dice. The Shub-Niggurath has been very much useless this game so far. One investigator moves to the gathering, the other one stays put, and then the Shub-Niggurath moves to the gathering. Hopefully the gathering is where we'll hit a home run with it, but this is unfortunate. I don't mind having the Shub-Niggurath, but I'm going to have to discard a white to move to the ceremony, which will put all 3 of my... Actually, do I want to do that? I like Ancient Stirring, but I don't particularly like Dark Pact, and I can't move anywhere else. I think either way I'm going to end up with 3 cultists on my lodge, so... Yeah. Actually, no, I will discard the Ancient Stirring so I can move over to the library instead, which will place a cultist and an investigator there. I'll draw 3 spell cards, and I'll get to ready an additional 1, but I only have 2 red there, so that's not exactly exciting. Spell 1 on a red. Gate to the past, taking 2 blue and a white. At the end of any other cult's turn, you may sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge to take the current location's basic action. That might be tempting. Card 2. Find gate, taking a blue and a yellow. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card. regardless of whether you have a gate card already, but you have to use it for movement during the move phase. And on a yellow, Dark Pact taking a blue and a white, becoming cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a single source. I do want temporary control here, so I can ready a spell at no cost. Which I don't get, that's unfortunate. And for 2 red, I don't think there's anything I can ready anyway. No, there is not. So on a blue, I will draw. Enthrall taking 2 white. Choose a location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. Okay. Then for the investigator's turn, they will discard a yellow card to try to move to the streets of Arkham, except they're already there. So they're right back in the other worlds. The more they keep bouncing back and forth between the streets of Arkham and the... Oh, I forgot to roll for the Shub-Niggurath and the Gathering. Stupid me. It's a good thing. I actually that was kind of why I was so hesitant to get rid of the Shub-Niggurath. But anyway, there are the... Actually, I think we moved him... No, never mind. We did roll. We moved him in. But anyway, now it's the start of the turn. So now there are the aforementioned 4 dice. Hopefully we get to hit a home run with this roll. Oop. So of course we get exactly Bubkiss out of there. The Shub-Niggurath moves into the library. Right. So that Shub-Niggurath actually has done nothing for us, but I will go ahead and discard the Enthrall to move back over to the museum again, mostly so I can prepare a spell there. Which will be our 3rd investigator there. I do not like any of these artifacts, so I'll discard Chambers' Journal so I can get a new one. I will find Wizard's Grimoire. So my hand size my minimum hand size is 5 now. And then I'm not particularly... Actually, yeah, I will roll for temporary control. Which I don't get. I mostly was going to try to cycle the reserve there, but anyway. I definitely will prepare a spell here. I'll use 2 blue and a yellow, or 2 blue and a white, to prepare Gate to the Past. So at the end of a turn, I can sacrifice 2 cultists from my lodge to take the current location's basic action. So that's all prepared there. These are gone. And then I will draw 2 cards from the deck. So I will find... On a green, Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 yellow and a white. Choose one of their cults to return one of their cultists from the Abyss. You return 3 to your lodge. Then on a white, Alhazred's Vengeance, taking yellow, green, red. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. Okay, and then the investigators from the other worlds are discarding a white to move to the ceremony and place another cultist there. Right, so I think we're just going to have to bite the bullet here and plan on trying to get rid of the cultist. So I will remember actually to roll for the library. Still exactly nothing. So the Shub-Niggurath returns to the other worlds. Then the Shub-Niggurath gets removed from play, and the Shub-Niggurath goes to the bottom of the reserve. That was a waste of a Shub-Niggurath, but anyway, now looking at my cards, I will use Sign of the Brotherhood from the museum to move over to the Gathering and end up with these 4 cultists these 4 investigators on my lodge. Right, so I'll place another cultist out and an investigator. I gain 3 back and move 1 to the other worlds. Then I will roll for temporary control of the location. Bringing the dice tower back into shot. I will get temporary control, so I'll be able to move the other two cultists out to the other worlds. Anyway, with 2 green, a blue, and a red. 2 green, a blue, and a red. I will actually prepare a find artifact, so I can draw another artifact from the artifact deck. So those are all gone. And then I draw 2 more cards. Okay, so on a yellow, I'll find Witch's Curse, taking a green and a white. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. And Alhazred's Vengeance, taking a green, red, and white. Not particularly useful in a solo game, but anyway. The investigators from the ceremony will discard a yellow to move down to the streets of Arkham, placing an investigator, and I get raided immediately with 4 investigators on my lodge. So in terms of tiebreakers, this is bad. Shub-Niggurath cannot afford to take a lot of Elder Signs out of this. Fortunately, she'll only take 2, but all 4 investigators leave the lodge, so that's very welcome. So we'll get 2 Elder Signs for the summon track. I placed the investigator out already. We'll get that out of shot. And I think I have time for one more turn before I need to take a small break. So I will actually discard at the gathering 2 yellow. I don't think neither of these were particularly interesting. So I'll discard 2 yellow to move up to the other worlds and end up with another perilous raid situation with 4 investigators there on my lodge. So we'll place those. And let's see if I've got anything that can potentially help me here. I do have the Jade statue, which I'll probably toss for a reroll in case I need it. But anyway, I have 2, 4, 6 cultists at the location. So I can go ahead and roll this out. Okay, yeah. And we end up with 3 summons. So we get to sacrifice 3 cultists to advance 3, 1, 2, 3 on the summon track. And then because we still have control of the location outright, we actually do get to return a cultist from the abyss. And then looking at what we have there, we have a wild, 2 green, 2 blue, and a white. Which I will actually prepare a find gate with that, so I can draw a gate card at the start of my turn, which I have to use for movement. So all of those get discarded. Then we'll draw 3 cards, 1, 2, and 3. So on a green I find Confound, which takes 2 blue and 2 yellow. Move all investigators from one location to an adjacent, or destroy all investigators on your lodge. On a blue, Broken Seal takes 3 blue. Destroy an Elder Sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current altar location to destroy another one. And on a white, Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a yellow. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. Anyway, I need to take a small break, and then we'll be back to the investigator's turn. The investigators are down at the streets of Arkham right now, so they'll discard a green to move over to the gathering, and then place an investigator out there. Then for our turn, I do not want any part of the ceremony right now, because right now the ceremony would get me rated with 8 dice, and that's probably an easy way to get Shub-Niggurath eliminated from this tournament. So I think what we'll do instead is I'll discard... Oh, this is bad. I will discard 2 white cards Yeah, because gaining 2 Elder Signs sounds bad for tiebreakers as well. So we'll discard 2 white to move over to the library, which will place a Cultist and an Investigator. Then I'll draw 3 spell cards and I can ready 1 additional spell. And I might try for temporary control as well. Wait a second. Let me look at what I've got prepared already. I could have used that, which I forgot about. Find an artifact. And Gate to the Past. So I do need to keep an eye on Gate to the Past. But anyway, I think I just started drawing the spells for the hand. But anyway. Right. Is that... Okay, yeah. My hand is pretty much useless right now. But anyway. On a green we find... Mind Switch, taking a red and a blue. Swap one of your cultists from any one location with any other cultist at a different location. So we'd use that to swap investigators. Red. Transmogrify. Change any one rolled die to any face. If it's a tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. And Enthrall, taking 2 red. Choose a location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. So I can ready 1 additional spell using the same pool, but before that, do I want temporary control, or do I just need to... I need to get rid of some of these spells, actually. So... I actually will go ahead and cast Find Artifact here. So I'll discard the Forgotten Tome to draw a fresh artifact. So I will find... Enchanted Cane. I can exhaust this to reroll 1 of my dice. And I will actually roll for temporary control. Is there a spell I really want to prepare here? Actually, yes, there kind of is, actually. There is one I want to prepare for no cost. Which I don't get temporary control of the location. That's unfortunate. But I do have a spell that I want to ready. So I will actually discard... I'll actually use everything here to prepare a Mind Switch, and I'll immediately cast it. So I get to swap a cultist from any one location with any other cultist at a different location. So I'll swap... So basically I'll swap a cultist with an investigator from the museum to the other worlds. Anyway, then we'll draw for turn. We will draw on a white. Coerce the Innocent, taking a green, a blue, and a yellow. Move up to 2 cultists from any one location or lodge to any lodges, which will be to another location. The investigators at the gathering will then discard a blue to move over to the museum, and that's turning into an ungodly mess right now. And we'll put another cultist there. So now, I think we got to go for it. I think Shub-Niggurath's got to go for it. So we will actually... I know I had a Find Gate. Wait a minute. Something... I did cast the Mind Switch, but I forgot to discard it. Anyway, I thought didn't I have a Find Gate? Yes, I do have a Find Gate ready. So, I will draw a Gate card, which I have to use for movement, but we gotta go for it here. So, we'll move up to the other worlds, put a cultist out, and an investigator. So... Let me make sure, because I'm pretty sure I've got at least the Jade Statue. The Jade Statue is my reroll. Okay, so we got 2, 4, 5 dice. All of these have to be hits, but again, we've got the reroll. So okay, so I will discard the Jade Statue. So I'll keep those 3. Come on. Let's get them out. So keep those 3. I'll reroll these 2. Exhaust the Enchanted Cane to reroll one more, but we're going to come up one short. We are going to knock... Actually, that did get knocked, so... I'm going to leave that. That was a lesser Elder Sign, so I am going to leave that. But we do get to sacrifice 3 cultists to advance 3 on the summon track. So 1, 2, 3. We haven't hit the Elder Sign limit yet, but we're going to be in peril if we do. Right. So we advanced 3 on the summon track. I will roll for temporary control. We did have 1 Cthulhu in there, so potentially getting a cultist back, which we don't get. Not that I completely mind that, because we've got plenty in the lodge right now, but anyway. Wild and 2 white. Is there anything we can prepare for that? Wild and 2 white. There is actually nothing we can prepare right now, so we'll just draw a spell on a yellow we'll find. Coerce the Innocent, which would not be the worst thing. I'm more interested in the symbol right now than I am the actual spell. But anyway, the investigators will discard a red to move over to the library and place another investigator there. Then I will discard from the other worlds a yellow to move down to the streets of Arkham, which will place an investigator and a cultist there. I get to remove 2 from the supply, so I'm out of danger there. Then I'll roll for temporary control, so I can maybe try to get rid of 1 more. Which I don't get, but again, I mostly wanted to get my lodge clear of a hazardous raid, so I did prepare the Enchanted Cane. Okay. Then for 2 yellow, a blue, a green, and a white. I think I will actually go ahead and prepare... I think I will prepare Transmogrify, actually, for the blue and the white. So I can change 1 rolled die to any face. If the new face is a tentacle or a Cthulhu, become cursed. So those are gone. And then I will draw on the... And I'll draw a red symbol, so I will find... Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 blue and a green. Choose 1 other cult to return 1 of their cultists from the Abyss and place that on their lodge. You do the same thing with 3. Then the investigators from the library will discard a white to move to the ceremony, and the ceremony is another location that is an ungodly mess right now. And I gotta see what happens when you get into a situation with no investigators. Because I know there's a penalty for... no investigators in supply, then all the players are immediately raided, so... Yeah, we do need to keep an eye on that, but we just placed the 5th cultist there. That place is an ungodly mess right now. And then since I want no part of the ceremony, once again, Shub-Niggurath will go for it. So we'll discard 2 white to move back to the other worlds, placing out another cultist and another investigator. So... we need 2 of these to... So, we're actually in a bit of a surprising situation here. So, Shub-Niggurath is rolling 3 dice. She'll match her Elder Sign, which will give her her 2nd curse. But that's if she gets 1 summon. If she gets 1 tentacle or Cthulhu. If she gets 2, she'll be summoned and she'll advance to the winner's group outright. So, let's see if we've got any mitigation. We've got the Enchanted Cane for a reroll, and Transmogrify to change a roll. So we do need to be somewhat careful of that we can use. We can use that, but that'll be our 3rd curse, which actually would still let Shub-Niggurath advance. But anyway, let's get into this. Or we can just roll it naturally. So... to go through everything by the book, so we rolled 2 Cthulhus, which means Shub-Niggurath will sacrifice 2 cultists to advance to 8 and take her 2nd curse. And then up to 9, Shub-Niggurath has also been summoned. Yes. Elder Signs 2. Curses 2. So, both Shub-Niggurath, so in this group, Yig was the only ancient one who did not get summoned, so he was out. But because of tiebreakers after getting summoned, Cthulhu had 3 Elder Signs on his summon to Shub-Niggurath's 2. So, what that means is that Shub-Niggurath on tiebreakers has advanced to the winners group. So that will do it for the first part of the tournament of Fate of the Elder Gods. Sunday, we will have the winners group that will consist of Yog-Sothoth, Atlach-Naka, and Shub-Niggurath. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.